Thank you, Chairman. I'm glad to get the opportunity. And first of all, I want to welcome all the witnesses here today. And at the outset, I want to say that I'm firmly and squarely behind the people that operate the Airbnbs. And I want to apologise to Maureen Murraku. She was in Killarney last Monday night, my hometown. I wasn't able to be there because of pre-arranged meetings. I'm glad that my daughter Councillor Danny Healy-Rae was there. And of course, before this at all, I know a lot of what's going on about this proposed bill. And first of all, I want to maybe, inform Senator Malcolm Byrne that it wasn't just Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael backbenchers that have been against this proposal. Indeed, we have a little group called the Rural Independent Group, and we're firmly opposed to what's proposed, and especially this bill, because this is what we're talking about here is, I mean, this figure of 12,000 is totally off the wall. I don't know who picked it, who said it, or where it came from, because it has no foundation and there's no truth in it. But it's going to hurt very rural communities that were benefiting in a very small way, but in a very significant way. You take places like Kilgarvan, Guinea-Gwillis, Scotland, Knocknagoshel, Brosna, they never see a tourist. They see them passing through. Indeed, thousands go through the village of Kilgarvan, but they don't stop there. And we don't benefit locally, the small shops, or the same in Guinea-Gwillis, the small pubs. And you see, yes, the big bulk of tourists go along the seaside, and maybe in places there they're in hotels enough. So Airbnbs have popped up, but the Airbnb, and there's a few of them in Kilgarvan, there's a few of them in Guinea-Gwillis, and they're going to be wiped out. And they have been told by the local authority that they must apply for planning permission. And at the same time, we're being told in a very straightforward manner that they won't be granted planning permission. So why would they spend 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 euros? And you see, when we talk about it, I say that these B&Bs have statutory rights when they go beyond 7 years. And many of them have been operating longer than that. Some of them that have been on to me have been 21 or 22 years operating. And I mean, it's very unfair and it's very unrealistic. And I think if they challenge this in the court, and they will, and they will, of course, and they'll have to, they have a right to continue doing what they've been doing for so very long. And no local authority can go after them. Maybe if they started up today, or if they started up a short few years ago, maybe they would have to go through the planning process to go into, or to stay doing what they're doing. But the ones that are beyond 7 years, there's no shadow of a doubt, but they have statutory rights. They have earned it when they went beyond the 7 year. It happens in every other field, in every other sphere. That's the rule. And you see, and if the planning isn't adequate for Airbnb, how is it going to be adequate for long-term lets? And you see, when we talk about the landlords leaving the long-term letting, and they're getting out in their droves because the system is wrong, that if we want to address housing, and housing, social housing, and to address the social housing list, you'll have to deal with, first of all, the landlords that have been letting for long term and were prepared to go into it, were spent their money when they did, but are now getting out of it. Address the problems as to why they have to get out of it and why they are getting out of it. Maybe one of the reasons is that they have to pay 52% tax. And maybe there should be something done about that. And the other thing is, a lot of people that have those long-term lets have a problem in getting back their house, and maybe that should be addressed as well. And then the other problem, of course, and the other way to deal with the housing, social housing problem, is to build more houses. And that was always what was done. But to go after these And they're not a big amount of people. Talk about the cities, let someone else talk about them, but I'm talking about rural Kerry, rural Ireland that I'm representing. It's the amount of houses you'll get back from that. And I'll ask Maureen in Morocco, you live, how far away do you live from the nearest village or town?
About 2.5 miles.
And could you envisage someone with a young family going to school that they'll come out there and live there full term out in the country if they didn't have a car?
No, they couldn't. And you can't cycle, this is an awful thing to say, but you can't cycle because of the wild Atlantic ways down the bottom of our lane. And when my kids were small, after a few close shaves, we took the bikes off them. You can't cycle to the village either because there's people driving constantly on these narrow boreens.
Well, that's that's the logistical problems that are there, and you're just 2.5 miles. But if it were 4 or 5 miles,
oh yeah,
I mean, there's school transport. There is a rumour out there that we're supposed to have school transport for all, but try getting it for someone then, or try getting to the shop, the local shop or somewhere, and to get a loaf of bread and simple things like that. And you're far away from medical services and everything. I mean, it's not really, they target something else, but please leave these people alone. And indeed, Malcolm Byrne suggested that we go back to and start again, and that's what I'm advising this committee and in favour of this committee doing, is to go back to the drawing board again and please leave the short-term nets alone and the Airbnbs and to say, they're just at the start of it now, and this will go on for months. There needs to be a suspension and a clarification given to the Airbnbs today, tomorrow, as soon as possible, to allow them to continue this year. Because it's not alone about the Airbnbs, Cahill. It's about the little pub, it's about the little village, it's about the little whatever it is. It's the small things, and communities are dying. Little villages are dying, as I'm looking to here in the face today, Cahill. And this will kill them further. And we need to clarify now, because we're moving into the season that they made their few pound, and they had control of their houses, and they were only suitable as Airbnbs. They weren't suitable as family homes for social housing families. So I'm appealing to you all to go back to the drawing board and try something else, because this is not fair, it's not just, it's not right, and we're hurting people that were depending on this little income to keep them going, to keep them living in rural Ireland, and it's wrong. And it maybe what's one size doesn't fit all. Maybe it would work up here in Dublin. Maybe. And when we were talking about housing in Dublin, they got done away with the bedsits, and the trouble started from there. Bring back them again and start with something like that. But please leave the people in rural Ireland that were set up for this, and they're in an awful amount of them. There's no way in the world you get 12,000 homes for long-term lets out of it. So we need to go back to the drawing board again and try some other thing, build houses or do something about the tax in the long-term lets. Do something else, but the Airbnbs is not the way to go. It's not realistic. And thank you for the time, Kyle.
Thank you, Danny Healy-Rae, and thank you for your patience. I'm afraid I had to leave you to the last. It was
well, I feel so strong about this. I'd stay here till 12 o'clock tonight to get my say in, because I really feel for these people. And again, I said tomorrow, I was sorry that I couldn't be at the meeting Monday night, because that's where I did want.
Can I just say one thing? When we were at the meeting on Monday night, it was suddenly I realised that legislation from 2016 was being used against people in Kerry, and the councillors asked for a moratorium there and then to be sent forward to the council to stop any more enforcement orders being taken. And I would really request if the committee could support me in that, so that all around the country people can continue in business this year and we can get things sorted out for next season, because it does have to be sorted out. We do need a register, but the planning situation doesn't seem to be getting to the place where it needs to be so we can sort it out.
And can I just say one other thing? In fact, some counties, and I won't name them here, have already agreed to allow the ones that were over 7 years continue, but Kerry won't. And so I will further that proposal, and Mara did mention it, so we'll go at that, and we'll do our end. I promise you that.
Margaret.
We'll keep our end up.
Okay, Danny,
Thanks
thank you
very
very
much.
much.